This week, a very interesting case of self-defense is going to trial in Wisconsin. It's a case of Theodore Edgecomb. Let's talk about it. Hello again, everybody. My name's Sean Martin. I'm an attorney in Cleveland, Ohio, and I do criminal defense work. And today we're going to talk about Theodore Edgecomb and the criminal trial that he's going to have starting tomorrow, January 18th of 2022. Now, for some background information, all the events that occurred on September 22nd of 2020 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It was on that night that Theodore Edgecomb did shoot Jerry Cleereman. It's important to note that this entire series of events is actually broken down into three separate altercations. The first one, we actually don't know a whole lot about. It's really Theodore's word versus the word of Jerry Cleereman's wife. We don't know exactly what happened because it wasn't recorded. The second incident is recorded, but we have not seen it yet. The defense counsel, the prosecutor, and the judge have all seen it, and it is going to be introduced at trial. From what we do know, the video does show Theodore, who's on a bicycle, punching Jerry Cleereman, who's the passenger in a car. The third part of this entire situation is where we do have video. There's no sound attached to it, but you can see it and you can gain a lot of information from it. Now, I should also include this entire chain of events occurs over the course of a couple of minutes, if not less. Let's watch the video and figure out, is this self-defense or is it murder? Now, when you look at the video, what do you see? Well, you see a guy on a bicycle riding around the corner, just doing his thing. And then what do you see? That car come hauling ass around the corner. That's not somebody just making a turn. That's somebody chasing a person. And then what do? They then swerve over into the bike lane. And if you watch that video clearly enough, you can see Theodore has to get off his bike and onto the sidewalk. That's not looking good for the Cleeremans. I mean, that looks pretty aggressive. What we cannot see from the rest of that video is what exactly happens between Jerry Cleereman and Theodore Edgecomb. At that point, I don't know, and it doesn't clearly state what happened. We do know that Jerry Cleereman suffered a gunshot wound to the head from very close range, so close, in fact, the stippling is on his skull. Stapling is just the unburnt gunpowder residue that gets embedded into the skin. So that does show this happened super close range. What we do know from Theodore's attorneys is that the allegations are that Jerry Cleereman acted in a very aggressive manner, was using racial epithets, particularly N-bombs, dropping those and being very aggressive and advancing toward him. But now we get to the interesting part, the part that I'm sure you all are thinking about yourself. What did Theodore do? Did he act in self-defense or is it murder? You know what? I have to side with Theodore in this one. And it's not even by the thinnest of margins. By a long, long amount, I agree with Theodore that he acted in self-defense here. Sure, he may have punched Jerry Cleereman earlier. There may have been some jawing and yelling at each other and bad names and other kinds of crap going on in those prior two incidents. But what do you notice happened? Theodore hopped on his bike and rode away. At that point, it's done. If you're Jerry Cleereman and you're that pissed off, well, go get the police. What you don't do is hop in your car, haul ass around a corner, and chase that guy down to the point he gets run off the road. I'm not going to lie. If Theodore turned around and pulled out his pistol and started shooting at Jerry Cleereman in that car as it ran him off the road, not guilty right now. Every day of the week. There's no excuse for what the Cleeremans did. Further, Jerry hopping out of the car. What was that going to do? What was your purpose? Well, he's dead, and he made a poor decision, so we don't know. But what was he going to do? And think about it in your own mind. If you were in Jerry's shoes, you hop out of that car, what are you going to do? You going to give him a piece of your mind? Now, I will just say, Jerry Cleereman is a immigration lawyer. So I doubt he's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I'm not sure what exactly he was going to do here, but you're going to just chase some random guy down in the middle of the night, like in a dark alleyway, after you try to run him down, and you think it's going to end all right? Come on. There, no, that is insane and that is preposterous. Jerry went looking for a fight and he found one. Jerry went after a guy which I don't know. Maybe he didn't realize people carry guns, but people carry guns, and when you run up on them, they don't take kindly to that. I would also tell you all that's a very good life lesson. Is it really worth it? For Jerry Cleereman, was this a good idea? Oh, somebody punched me, okay? You got punched. Okay, maybe you looked like a punk in front of your wife, but I don't get it. With so many of these self defense situations where people try to get aggressive, there's no point. You gain nothing from this. The other thing I think that helps Theodore is that the prior mentions of stippling, meaning the gunpowder residue is embedded in Jerry Cleereman's face from when he got shot. You have to be right up on somebody. You're within feet of them. When you're within arm's reach, generally, or even closer, when you get shot. Well, that's important because that shows Theodore was getting away and Jerry Cleereman kept advancing. Once again, like I said, I think like a moron, but you know what? That's what happens. You can attribute that to the principle of fuck around, find out, or run up, get done up. I mean, those are universal. You don't come after people and expect nothing to happen. You come after somebody, you better be prepared to handle your business. There is one thing I do think that Theodore is going to have to work around and have to explain is why he fled the scene. And not just the scene, but he fled the state of Wisconsin. Was down to Kentucky. Now, if I'm his attorney, say he traveled to Kentucky. He's allowed to do that. Just because you commit a crime, you're somewhat what? You're supposed to stand there and let the police find you? No. He could have gone for any number of reasons. Now, I will preface this by saying if he had mentioned something to the police that he ran and admitted to running because of the whole situation, this really defeats my argument of, well, he could just travel. So let's see what the trial shows us. But even if that were the case, I don't blame Theodore for running. Who's going to believe him? And does he think he'll get a fair trial given what happened to Kyle Rittenhouse? He shot a bunch of people on camera who were clearly attacking him, and it was clearly self-defense, and he had to go on trial and fight for his life. In Theodore's case, he has crappy video and not as much evidence to help him. Well, I'd be worried about getting a fair trial too if I was in his shoes. So, is it wrong for him to run? No, I don't blame him. For people who paid attention to the Kyle Rittenhouse trial and are now looking at this trial, you're going to notice a difference. And that difference, starting off, is that the state of Wisconsin is going to be able to address Jerry Cleereman as the victim. Unlike in Kyle's case where the judge made them introduce evidence, it prohibited that at least at the start of the trial. Now, why is that important and why is there this distinction here? It's an issue because it's up to the judge. It's their rulings. Kyle's judge allowed it to happen. You can't label this person a victim until you establish they're a victim. That's the exception. That's not the rule. In Theodore's case, that's normally what happens in courts across America. In fact, that's what happens in many cases I'm involved in. The prosecution is allowed to label the victim as a victim to start off the case, and they're allowed to run with that narrative. It's not the other way around. This is actually the rule. Do I think it's wrong and should it never be the case? Yes, but that's where we are in American jurisprudence. Now, I will point out the judge in this case did explain why he's making his ruling, and I'll let his words speak for themselves.
This is a homicide. He's a victim.
Right. Let me jump in. It's a homicide. He's a victim. Whether he was the victim of a self-defense situation or he was the victim of a reckless homicide is what the jury is to determine. And I know where this is coming from. I read the news. This is not the Rittenhouse case. I know Judge Schrader. I consider Judge Schrader a friend of mine. I have never required the state or told the state how to refer to somebody when they're on the stand. Now, if the state uses the word victim 752 times, I'll probably tell them to back off because they'll be belaboring it. But I'm not going to tell the state how to try their case. And there was a victim in this case. There's not a dispute, as the state said, over a contract dispute amongst lawyers. It's not a sexual assault case where maybe the victim or alleged victim is making up an allegation. In this case, the state has their belief, and there was someone who was a victim of this homicide. There was a homicide. As the defense just conceded, the only question is, was it what the state charged the defendant with, or was it self-defense?
Now, with all that being said, do I think this is going to cripple Theodore's case? Will this set him up to be convicted? No. But it's one more thing the prosecution can use to harm him. And every little bit can hurt. So is it critical? No. But is it just one more brick to throw up on the scale to weigh things towards their finding of a guilty verdict? Yes. Would I rather that brick go on the scale towards finding not guilty? Yes. But once again, a wall is made of many bricks, and this is just one little part of it. That's it for today, guys. Leave a comment or question below. Like, share, subscribe. Appreciate anything you do. I will be trying to recap this as the days go by each day in the trial. Like I said, I'm anticipating a good result. Let's hope he gets a good result. I think he deserves it. I don't think he did anything wrong. If you guys want to, maybe I'll live stream it at some point. Let me know. Just leave a comment and we'll see if enough people are interested. And remember, until next time, just because you did it doesn't mean you're guilty.